Welcome to the Israel Answers series, connecting Israel, the Bible, and you. Join Susan Michael as she explores timely issues and current events from a scriptural perspective to equip the Christian world with a balanced and biblical response. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes, which will ignite your faith and bring the Bible to life in your everyday world. Now, let's join Susan with your Israel Answers.
Well, we're here at the 2025 National Religious Broadcasters Convention again today, and we have met a brand new friend that we're so excited to talk to today. We have with us Captain Guy Barak. He's representing the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, but we want to talk about some of the positions that he's had recently. But Captain Barak, we just want to thank you for stopping by and talking with our audience today.
Thank you for having me here. It's a real honor and pleasure to be.
We want to talk about the Friends of the IDF, but first, let's talk about you. So you have been in America now for like 3.5 years, and you served in the Israeli embassy as the Israel naval attaché to the U.S. Tell us about what does that mean? What did you do?
So, first of all, I'm serving the Israeli Navy for a little bit more than 26 years now. Mainly in combat positions in the Israeli Navy. For the last 3.5 years, until the last summer, I've been the Israeli naval attaché to the U.S., which means I represented the Israeli Navy working with the U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, Marines, and strengthening the partnership between our services. Since October 7th, I've been sent to New York to be the military attaché to the United Nations, or to the Israeli mission in the United Nations, supporting them in the first year of the war.
Now, explain that. Why do we need a military attaché to the UN? What do you do?
That's a great question, because we never had such a position before October 7th, not as a permanent position. So my job as a military attaché to the UN was, first of all, to support and inform the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, and all his teammates, what's going on the ground, how we proceed with the war. You know, there is a lot of fighting fake news around there, especially in the UN. So supporting them and providing advising about the war that's going on. Second thing is working hand in hand with my counterparts, the other military attachés from all around the world, to educate and inform them what we're doing. And I can tell you we have majority of sympathy and respect for what we're doing as a military in a professional way. So that's the military level in the UN. And of course, fighting the anti-Semitism and the fake news that's going on there. I had the option to show the uncensored footage of October 7th.
Well, you know, our listening audience, they pray a lot for Israel, for the Jewish people. And I would just encourage them to pray for that UN, the Israeli mission to the United Nations. They are like on the front lines of a daily battle against lies and propaganda. And I really never realized that each country has a military attaché there. And I'm really happy to hear from you that there's a lot of respect and admiration for the Israeli military, and that you had good relations with a number of countries.
But, well, first of all, your praise is something that is, we really feel the warm hug, I gotta say. It's not for granted for us, and you know, especially since October 7th, it becomes clear who's with us and who's against us, and we really appreciate your support. Now, you know, we always say that we're fighting against 7 fronts right now as the IDF. Up in the north against the Hezbollah from Lebanon, of course Gaza, terror groups from Syria, from Iraq, the Houthis from Yemen, and of course Iran. But it's actually an 8 front, and this is the social media and the public opinion, and of course the anti-Semitism. And this is, I think, the main front, that it's not just military deal, but all of us are soldiers in this front. And especially you, when you talk for us and you educate for us, and to differentiate between good and evil, and we share the same values. This is a front that we all need to be part of.
Well, Captain Barak, you said that you served in the Israeli Navy for 26 years.
Yes.
It's something that we don't often think about, the fact that Israel even has a Navy, because we always think of the Army and the Air Force. But so tell us a little bit about Israel's Navy.
So Israeli Navy is a pretty small but very capable Navy. And, we operate wherever we need, not just by close to our shoreline to protect our people, but in any other places that needed to be. And, we saw even after October 7th that the IDF as a whole work hand in hand between the different branches. So the Navy actually support also the ground forces fighting in Gaza. And, even fire from the sea or intel from the sea, or being their back and their eyes from the seafront.
Interesting.
And so, by the way we combine our forces, the Navy, the Air Force, and the ground forces allow us to bring much more effectiveness to the battlefield.
So I have a very embarrassing question.
Go for it.
So in Israel, the IDF...
The question is not embarrassing thing. The answer might be.
No, the IDF
Yes.
is not just Army. Is that right? Or is it only the Army? And then you have IAF for the Israel Air Force.
No, so the way it works is the Israeli Defense Forces include all the different branches.
All the different branches.
The ground forces, which you call in the U.S. the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy, we are all under the IDF.
Okay. So now you are here representing the Friends of the IDF, which is the Friends of all the branches of the Defense Forces. So tell us about the work of the Friends of IDF.
So, the Friends of the IDF is the only organization that really had a direct contact with the Israeli mission of the Ministry of Defense and the IDF. So they get directly from us what are our needs, and they provided us. And they've been doing it for many years, but especially since October 7th, where we have urgent needs that comes day after day, they adjust themselves and provide us whatever we need. And for example, we got during this war special ambulances that can go through different routes and roads in the Gaza Strip. And we were able to provide blood plasma to the soldiers on the tough roads. We got PTSD treatment for our soldiers. We got recharging places and infrastructures that allow us to send soldiers out of the Gaza Strip for a week to recharge themselves and go back to the battlefield. And healthcare treatment that allow them not just to go back to the fight, but also to be able to build a family later on and build a house in Israel. So we got supported in many different ways and means by the Friends of the IDF. I'm, as a commander, had the privilege to enjoy our most best men and women serving in the IDF. Some of them from bad social economic background, that the only reason they were able to bring 100% of themselves and serve in a combat position was because they knew someone else taking care of their most basic needs, and that's the FIDF.
Well, I know that right after October the 7th, there was a tremendous need that a lot of us pitched in on, because you had called up like 300,000 reserves, right? And didn't have the supplies. The supply line wasn't set up yet for that many reservists. And so a lot of us were making donations to help provide with needs. But I think all that's settled down by now, and the Israeli government, the Friends of the IDF, are able to supply what the needs are. Or are there some needs that you're raising funds for?
So I'm not raising funds, I'm representing as an officer. I can tell you what I reflect as a military officer. There's so much to do, so many people to take care of. Health treatments, PTSD, as I mentioned, is one major thing. Recovering. And so the needs are changing by the time goes by. as the war goes on and on. And you mentioned about people came from the U.S. reservists, for example. Tremendous numbers of lone soldiers that we have that came to serve during this war.
Explain what that is. What is a lone soldier?
So a lone soldier is he or she that will come to serve in the IDF. Well, their life, their family, their houses is overseas. So they leave their family, they live their nice and comfort life here in the U.S., either in college or in other places, and choose to go and serve in the IDF. Now, what we need to make sure is that they are, wrapped by love, and they got everything they need from the basic needs, because they're by themselves coming to serve the IDF in Israel.
Yeah, a lot of, soldiers, they get their weekend off and they go home and they get warm food and they get their clothes washed and they get loved on by their family and then they go back renewed. But these lone soldiers have nowhere to go. They don't have a family. They don't have that warm meal waiting for them. And so there are organizations in Israel that try to supply that for the lone soldiers.
So what your community does with FIDF is making sure that everything the lone soldier needs, they get, including sending their families to visit them or sending them to visit their families, and making sure that wherever they live in Israel, they got all the appliances they need, all their needs. So, and that's the main thing. It's part of our strength as a community.
Yeah. So speak now to, there's still a lot of reservists that have been called up, right? And this has been a real trauma to the Israeli society, to the Israeli economy, because these reservists, they're in their 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. And okay, they're used to serving like 3 weeks a year, right? They go do their reserve duty 3 weeks a year. They're called up after October the 7th. And some of them are still serving. It's 500 days later. It's a year and a half away from their families most of the time, away from their jobs, or some of them had their own little business, away from their business. Businesses have shut down. Jobs have been lost. I mean, it's a huge dent on the society. How are you all handling that?
That's a great question, because the reservists is the core, I would say, the core heartbeat of the IDF, and we need to take care of them and their families and their future. I met so many people who put their lives in this war, put aside everything they had, and joined the fight. And even in the beginning of the war, when we asked to recruit a number, we got so much more that came and said, "We're here. Tell us what we should do." Now, having said that, the families in Israel are suffering as well. Israel is a small country, as you know, and October 7th and this war touches almost each and every one of us. I can share with you that my wife's family, my wife's uncle, was murdered in his house in Kibbutz Nir Oz in front of his wife's eyes, and she was kidnapped to Gaza and held as a hostage. We were lucky enough that she was one of those who had been released on the first hostages deal. But this national tragedy, mixed with a personal tragedy, mixed with a professional military tragedy, and it basically touched in each and every family in Israel. And so there is so much to do in Israel to support either the community, the bereaved families, the orphans and widows that join these bereaved families, I would say community, that become larger and larger, unfortunately. And of course, the most important thing is to pray to bring back our hostages back home. Each and every one of them as soon as possible. That's the main goal right now.
So what are your final words to our audience? What would you like to see your Christian friends here in America doing?
First of all, I would like to thank you all, because this is not for granted, and we see the huge support and the warm hug that we get from this community here and in Israel. The only thing I would like to say, other than thank you, is be a part of this fighting the hate front of social media and fighting anti-Semitism around the world, and keep on supporting us either through your program or FIDF programs, and we're grateful for that. Thank you.
Well, you've got our support, you have our prayers, and you can be assured our organization is doing everything we can to fight those lies and the propaganda. But we need to be even more creative and innovative how to do it. And we're putting a lot of thought into that. And hopefully we'll have some new initiatives this year to fight back.
Thank you so much, and thank you
Yeah.
for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us today.
God bless.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Out of Zion with Susan Michael. Be sure to subscribe to Out of Zion now on Apple Podcasts, cpnshows.com, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen and learn. Out of Zion with Susan Michael is a production of ICEJ USA, all rights reserved.